Welcome back to DDVRE Arcade. In today's video, Fred, Eddie the Eagle, and I are going to be doing a comparison video of these two load cell pedals from Thrustmaster. Since they've retired this and they are now offering this as their main one, I figured it's a good video for people out there because there's probably a lot of people sitting on this and wondering, is it worth it? They're both rated 100 kg, and when I first heard that, I thought the same thing. So I upgraded to the T598, and I had these, so I took the plunge and decided to be the guinea pig for everybody and then do a comparison so that you guys can see whether or not it's worth it for you. So if you're somebody in that position, stick around. This video should help you. If you're looking at what's just around the $300 price level for load cells and you haven't gotten one yet, but you want to get into a load cell, this video should help you, whether you're on a PC or a console. So stick around and we'll do our best to try and keep you entertained, but let's get on to the rest of the video. Alright, since this is a comparison video, let's talk about the look or the aesthetics. To me, in 2026, this looks like the better pedal. It looks more modern, it looks more updated, and it sheds the plastic base that makes this look like a cheaper pedal set. Now this part is still nice, and I don't mind this part, and the aluminum arms are a decent quality thing versus a bent, flat, stamped metal. But at the end of the day, overall, the modular look and the way this looks lends itself more to higher end brake kits, even though this may not be on the high end of the brake kit scale. So to me, looks wise, and I just can't get over this green. They say it's gray, but it has a green shades to it, and to me, that black anodizing, or not anodizing, but powder coating matches my motion rig from DOF, and then that subtle green, gray, whatever you want to call it. And then I even just like the way the springs are laid out, the smaller footprint, just everything about this to me, ultimately, aside from I like the wider pedal here plate. But to me, 2026, hands down, I think this is the better option, or the more aesthetically pleasing option. So let's talk the dimensions real quick because there's a little bit difference there, but just minimal, but there are some differences, and since it's a comparison video, I am going to talk about it. If you want to skip to the next chapter because this isn't your cup of tea, go right ahead. But with that, we're looking at about a 13.75 inch total width on the Raceline versus a 13.25 inch on the T-lcm set. You're looking at a 14 inch depth on the Raceline, and the T-lcm is a 15.1/8 inch. You're looking at a 6.75 inch footrest plate depth on the Raceline, where you got a 7 inch depth on the T-lcm. Your base plate footrest height is the biggest difference in my opinion. At the front of the Raceline, you're about 7/8 inches up from where you would mount to, and then at the back, you are at about 1.5 inches. So 5/8 of an inch difference between the front to the back. And then on the T-lcm, you are at 1 3/8 roughly at the front, and at the back you are at 1 3/4. So only a 3/8 difference, so not as sharp of a pitch, but it is higher up. A 1/2 inch at the front, only a 1/4 inch at the back, but it is higher up. So that will change potentially how it feels for you. The other thing ultimately would be the pedal sizes. These two pedal sizes are the same. They are both 2.5 inch by 4.25 inches. These two pedals have the same height at just under 4 inches. So the width of this is 2.25. It is a 1/4 inch narrower than this clutch pedal. And the brake pedal width is 3.25 inch. So it's 3/4 of an inch wider than the brake pedal on the Raceline. The gas pedal on the Raceline is 5.5 inches tall, and the gas pedal on the T-lcm is 4.75 inches tall. The widths are kind of goofy. If you go to the skinny part, it's 2 inches on the Raceline, but it's 2.25 on the T-lcm total width, and then the fat part or wider part on the Raceline is 2 3/8. So it's wider by 1/8 inch there, but it's narrower by 1/4 inch everywhere else versus the T-lcm pedal set. As for the height, both the brake and the clutch on the T-lcm set are at their highest height, and these measure 8 3/8 inches from the mounting surface. The clutch and brake pedal on the Raceline can be a max height of 8 5/8 inches above mounting plate height. The gas pedal max height for the Raceline is at 8.75 inches, and that's its max height, where the gas pedal for the T-lcm set can be almost 9.5 inches up. So that is the differences between your height adjustments on the pedals themselves. And then the weight, ultimately, online, it says this weighs about 4,600 grams, which equates to roughly around 10 pounds. It does feel well balanced, feels sturdy and robust for the most part. This one online says it's like 5,600 grams or something, or 5,200 grams. And this one's roughly equated to around 12.5 pounds. And it is front heavy, and it does weigh more. So I am happy with the weight reduction because I use a motion rig, and any weight reduction on that is less stress on the motors. So I'm fine with that. So that is your measurements and weight section. All right, let's talk about all the design differences, because some are a little more subtle and you don't notice them if you don't see them side by side and you're not looking at it from the right angle. So some are clearly apparent. Overall design and look is clearly apparent, of course, you know what I mean? So I don't need to point out that. But some of the things that I do want to point out that are what I noticed that I didn't notice when I was looking at pictures of the both of them, you know, even though I had the one where was this, for instance. If I spin these around and you look at the actual pedal faces themselves, you see that these are curved slightly and these are flat. Of course, these are more smooth and these are ridged. That's the obvious. It's just that these are flat and these are slightly curved. You can't see that as much if you don't have it at the right angle. The other thing is these are all on a flush plane where these are not. Now, I do have my pedals set up on the stiffest sensor. I think if you move these back, that adjusts these so they could be flush, but the way I am set up with everything at its stiffest, this load cell is recessed at the very top across all three, about 3/4 of an inch. And I did notice that when I was racing the first race or two. It wasn't anything I dwelled on, and everything else about it is so nice that it wasn't anything that bothered me, but I did notice it initially. The next thing that I want to discuss, and ultimately the biggest design difference, and one of the things that makes the Raceline 3 load cell a superior pedal over the T-lcm set, is the way they did the spring design. Now, everybody's kind of moved on to this type of a system, and the big boys have been doing it for a long time now, most likely, where this is like an 80-degree angle, and these are like a 35, 40-degree angle. And what that allows for is more travel distance on your pedals themselves. More travel. Like the gas and clutch on the Raceline 3 has a travel distance of 2.75 inches, where the travel distance on the T-lcm for the same two pedals is only 1.75 inches, which is roughly about a 60% increase in your range of motion. Whether you like that or not, that is up to you, but me, I definitely like that because I felt that the range of motion on this one always felt like you were on the edge of bottoming out and flooring, where this one actually feels like you have more realistic pedal play, like an actual car. And then the design itself, being that it works more like a squeezing, the way they have it set up, which is how cars feel, than a plunging, which is how a clutch feels for like a riding lawnmower or something. So for that, it's more realistic. And because I'm a realistic immersion person, VR, that just makes it all the better. So with that, the more obvious things, of course, are the fact that this one's static. You can't adjust any of the pedals. You can't take anything away. The only one that you can adjust any springs on is this one, right? Where this one, you can take a pedal off if you don't like it, use the clutch, move this one around, move it closer for heel to toe type racing with one foot, or however you do that. So you've got all your adjustments here. And the other nice thing is you've got your adjustments here. Now on the load cell brake, this is the only setting that you use. You don't have another setting. You can't get it in these other two. It's not like their Raceline 3 set without the load cell where you can adjust it into all those. This one, clearly has to be in this. You can barely get it into that. That's how hard it was, at least for me. But yes, so you can adjust all that, which you don't have with this. So having better tension across the board on all of these versus this, because of this design, is so much nicer. Now, the one thing where it's kind of a wash between the two when it comes to adjustability is the actual face plates themselves. Because on these two, on the T-lcm set, they can only go left and right. They can't go up. But on the Raceline 3 set, they can go left, right, and up and down. But it's completely opposite when you're talking the gas pedals for the same pedals. The gas pedal on the T-lcm can go up and down, left and right, but the gas pedal on the Raceline can only go up and down. Figure that out. So that is ultimately most of the design changes, aside from discussing the sensor and then the actual bushings and springs on the load cell itself, which I'll be discussing coming up in the next section. Let's talk about the sensors a little bit, and because it's a big difference. You know, I know the argument out there is that once you get past 12-bit, when it comes to the steps or the pressures, your foot is incapable of registering that small of a step. You know, and it's similar to the same kind of argument that I had when we were talking about degrees of separation in my video for the engine roar mechanic on the T598 that you can see here. And it's kind of the same thing. If you've got a pedal travel of 2.75 inches or 1.75 inches, and you have 65,000 steps in, say, a sensor at 16-bit, and then on a 24-bit sensor you have 1.6 million, you know, you divide that travel distance by that. Well, those both, it doesn't matter which one, you know, the one's kind of is on the ridiculous level, you know, but even so, they're so small that you can't possibly move your foot in that small of an increment to take advantage of just that one tiny little step. But that doesn't mean that you can't take advantage of larger sections of steps in a smaller section within a larger piece, if that makes sense. Yeah, you can't take advantage of each individual tiny step, but maybe you can take advantage of 50 of those tiny steps at once, where before the 50 steps that you would take advantage of might equate to like 100 steps of this. So you can get a little bit more precise, but not enough of the precision to get all the way down to individual steps. You're clustering steps, but you can make smaller clustered steps than you could before, if that makes sense. And that's what it felt like to me when I was driving. Because when I was driving, I noticed going in and out of the cars, and I can't remember the term, I keep drawing a blank on it. But when you're getting in behind cars without bumping them and kind of drifting and driving, going around them, that just felt so much easier. It felt more precise, like I was less of a chance that when I was slowing down that I was going to bump into somebody. You know what I mean? When I was going into turns and trying to weave and with people, and it just felt like the sensitivity was so much nicer. I could just press it a little bit and it reacted more accurately than this pedal did for me. Because this pedal has a little bit more slop in it than this one, you know, which I'll discuss in the next section. But that was a big difference that I noticed. And you know, again, you can claim you can't tell or it doesn't matter because of that, but to me, I noticed a huge difference and I was happy with it, and that just made me go, because that was one of the things that got me to go, okay, the sensor's supposedly better in it, so I'm going to take a plunge and spend the $200. Because if it was just 100 kg on itself, it made me, I already have this, so I didn't think it was going to be worth it. But based on what I experienced with the actual sensor input itself, it was worth the upgrade, in my opinion, and I'm happy that I did it. The other thing that I do want to note with the sensor, and a lot of people might say is more of the reason, is with a 24-bit sensor versus a 16-bit sensor, it's less prone to interference. And if you have a lot of gear going on, motion rig, and I know a lot of people that are really hardcore into racing that don't necessarily have headsets, have a lot of little doodads, and you get a lot of interference going on, that is a benefit of the 24-bit versus a 16-bit. Even though you might not be able to take advantage of all the 1.6 million steps or even the 65,000 steps on something like this, I think overall overall, it is my preference that I would rather have the chance to be able to take advantage of that tech versus not even having the opportunity to take advantage of it, regardless of whether or not my physical limitations of my foot can do it or not. You know what I mean? And again, everybody's different. I might be able to take only 0.5%, or the next guy might be able to take advantage of a percentage where a bunch of people might not be able to take advantage of it all. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I'd rather have that than not. You know what I mean? It's one of those, the old adage, rather it's better to have and not need than need and not have. So with that, that is the sensors and kind of a brief synopsis of my experience when I was driving the first time, noticing how it felt when you'd be clustered with cars at the beginning of races and leaving in and out. And it's noticeable, in my opinion. All right, I want to talk about the 100 kg rating that these pedals are both marketed with, because it's misleading. And if you're sitting with this and you think because this is a 100 kg rating that you're not going to see any difference on this one because it's the same kind of rating, that is, nothing could be further from the truth. These two load cells are completely different, feel completely different, and work completely different. I don't care what anybody says. They are not the same, they do not feel the same, and they do not function the same. The sensors are nicer, which you do notice, and the actual way the pedal is designed and the way the springs are designed and the resistance that you get with this out of the box set up at 100 kg versus this out of a box set up, no modding, is night and day difference. Night and day difference. I don't know what else to say other than that. I don't know how this can be rated at 100 kg if this is rated at 100 kg. Whether they consider it just the actual sensor itself or it's the whole mechanism with the springs and everything that is considered that 100 kg rating. If that is the case, this is either not a true 100 kg or this is higher than 100 kg. Now, if I show you how much travel distance that I have on each one of these, what I can do with my arm, you're going to notice a big difference here. Now look at how much I can depress that with my arm. That's close to 1 inch, that rod sticking up there. Now, if I try and do the same thing over here, you have to pay attention to this blue spring because unlike that, you can't get the rod effect that you can kind of see here. So you have to pay attention to the blue spring. But here, I'm pushing just as hard. And how much am I moving that? It's hard to tell, but I'm only moving that like 3/8 to 1/2 inch tops, where this I'm moving up to 1 inch. That's double the amount that I can move this with my arm when it comes to the stiffness factor. And I'll tell you, you notice that. I noticed it right away as soon as I was playing. And to me, I thought, well, this ain't the same. How is this rated the same? So I don't get that part, but I'm not the most freaking, I don't dig into everything when it comes to racing all day long because it's not my super nutter. It's part of what I love, but I play a lot of stuff and a lot of genres and spread it around, like I've said before. So I just don't get that, and I don't think you should compare that number. I think that's misleading to you guys. So all I'm going to say is, based on the fact that I can push this down twice as much, I'm just going to say this is a 200 kg rated pedal, and this is a 100 kg rated pedal. Or this is a 100 kg rated pedal, and this is a 50 kg rated pedal. That's how I'd classify it, based on the stuff that I can do to it and how it feels. And outside of that, I don't really know what else to say. The one other thing that I will note is it's not just the resistance in these that is stronger too. The resistance in these pedals and these pedals is a lot stronger as well. Like I can push this one all the way down with my finger, right? And hold it there and it doesn't hurt. If I do it to this one, it starts to hurt because it's stronger. But if I do it to this one, it's not as strong as the clutch here, but it's stronger than this gas pedal, and I can't hold it as long with my finger without the tip starting to hurt. This one, I can't even push all the way down with my tip before it wants to lift the edge of this, where I can push this all the way down and it's not lifting the edge. Granted, it's front heavy here more so than it is here, so let's take that into account, but still, I can push this all the way down. Even if I was to just put my little finger on this, I can't push it all the way down with just my finger holding this from tipping because it's too strong where my finger will hurt. I have to use more of my hand to do it. So across the board, the tension. And you got springs that come with this that could be more strong. A black one, I can't remember the other one. They're in this box here, but so you can even make them even more stiff. So it's different. It's 100%, in my opinion, it's better, way better. I like more resistance because less resistance feels a little too weak. Now, you don't want too much on the gas pedal per se to where it doesn't feel realistic, but this overall feels way more realistic. So when it comes to the load cells, the new Raceline 3 load cell pedal set smokes the T-lcm set, in my opinion. All right, so I think everybody's going to probably end up eventually coming into here and making adjustments. If you didn't right away, you will, because with the addition of the extra inch of travel in the pedal, gas pedal and clutch, and the 16 million steps versus 65,000 steps on the brake pedal, it just didn't seem the same racing with them both in stock mode. I couldn't slow down as fast, so I had to start slowing down sooner, and I couldn't get up to the top speed as fast, so I had to start slowing down before I could even accelerate out, and that just made me slower than the other cars. And due to that, I ended up going to about an 18% brake, and then I went to a 100% on the first race because I wasn't quite sure what was causing it because I was crashing a lot. So I just did the brake mainly and then left the gas at 100. And then I changed it based on the results of each race going forward, and I did 3 in consecutive order. But before that, I'm going to show you my last race with the T-lcm set when I had upgraded from the T150 to the T598. I pulled this data from that video on my channel, and you can see I got first place. I had a whole race completed with the miles warmed up, stock settings, and then you can see my times, and for me that's pretty good. You average these times and you're going to get first pretty much every time in this on this track. The Touring Car 800 Sardenga, 700,000 if it's a clean race. And so, you know, my best lap being a 137.931, great. Now if you look at race 1 where I finished 8th, I didn't have any warm up, and you can see the stats at which I had the gas and the brake. And then you look at the track times, I didn't even have one sub 40 track time, not one. And the lowest one was my pit times. And the reason why the pit times are astonishing is because usually they're 2 to 4 seconds faster than all the regular lap times, because I only put down the on-track time. The video where it cuts and you see the cutscenes, I don't add that time when you're sitting there. This is just on-track time for the pit lap itself, and those are generally much faster. So the fact that that's not even a sub 140 and almost a 141 is just crazy. Now when you see what I did in race 2, I lowered the gas 10%, and right away it paid off immensely. Now I had 2 crashes, 2 spins that screwed me in the long run. I ended up only getting 3rd, but that's impressive considering the one was a pretty bad at 159. You know, but I still came up 3rd. So it started to perform a lot better. My fastest lap on this was only 100th of a second slower than my fastest with the T-lcm. But some of the other stuff wasn't as consistent as I was getting with the T-lcm, due to this being only my 2nd race with this pedal. So by the time I got done with this race, which you see the spin out there, and we move on to the 3rd race, you can see I lowered it a little bit more on the brake, because I thought that might help with the spinning out. And then I lowered the gas, tried to get it 85%, but that was good enough. I just went with it. A little increment to see how much that would change the acceleration curve. And didn't seem like it did a whole super lot, but overall I was more successful because I got first place on this one. And my best lap time wasn't as good as in race 2, and some of the other data wasn't as good, but overall this was still on par ultimately with what I was doing with the T-lcm. And this is only my 3rd race. So I'd have to say in 3 races versus 3 years of using a pedal, that's a pretty good improvement that quick, you know, within 2 hours. So if we look at all the data here, across from it, you can see that I got better with each and every race that I did, and with the setting changes. And since the only 2 races that we got first place was the T-lcm, and then the 3rd race with the Raceline 3, we can just drop the Raceline 1 and 2 race and then just compare the Raceline 3 and T-lcm races and see what data we got there. Now, on the first lap, you've got a 142.79 versus a 144.2. It's about a second and a half. But the second lap, I'm a second faster. Then I'm about a little under a half a second slower on the third lap. Then my pit lap is a second faster. You see what I'm saying? So ultimately, you're trading blows. So for me, this is a pretty comparable run. So I think I have it pretty good and dialed in. But let's look at the data in an average based on all of them. So let's look at the T-lcm. I have a best pit lap of a 137.054, and then out of the other 3 races, the best one was a 135.013. An average pit time of 137.857 with the T-lcm, and then out of the next 3, the best one was the 135.898 in race 3. Now, if you look at the best out lap, that was a 140.732 with the T-lcm, and then the best one was in race 2 at 142.61. The average out lap was a 141.569 with the T-lcm, and then in race 2, my average was 148.63. And then the average lap was a 142.38, and the best average lap was a 141.117. A little bit slower, almost a whole second, but I think that I can come with some of those crashes, because if you look at some of the data in the other parts, you'll see that I had a crash on the third race in a spin out, and I still was almost under 143. And those add between 4 and 7 seconds to your lap time. So if that wouldn't have happened, race 3 would have been really good. Looked really good on its averages against the T-lcm. So ultimately, without the mistakes, because the T-lcm was raced clean, you would get real close. And even your overall times, you can see from race 1 when I adjusted down the gas that it just got immensely better and more comparable to what I was dealing with my T-lcm. And personally, I believe that I'm going to get better the more I play with this. Now, I will have to do a little bit more tweaking I think I want to do just to make sure that I like where I'm at, because I've only done these 3 races with the pedal yet. But for the most part, I'm happy with where I've got it. And I think that once I get it dialed in and get a little bit more used to it in a few more races, I will be consistently running faster lap times. And it's mainly due to the brake pedal being so much better. It feels so much better. It's so much more superior, in my opinion, in the construction and how it feels, and even the sensor, than the old one, that it just is hands down the better option. And with that, let's just go to the closing thoughts so everybody get back to their day. All right, summing up the whole entire video, for those of you who skipped right to the end, I will say that ultimately, hands down, the Raceline 3 load cell by Thrustmaster is a worthy successor to the T-lcm pedal set. And anybody who is using this and sitting on this, wondering if it's worth upgrading to this, I think you'll be happy with the upgrade and moving to this. It feels better in every single way. For the most part, everything about it is better, with a couple exceptions, but they are my opinion ultimately, and that is the width of the brake pedal and the adjustability of the gas pedal plate itself. Other than that, every other aspect, in my opinion, of the new Raceline 3 load cell is better. And where it really counts, the load cell's night and day difference better. The extra travel on the gas and the clutch, more so the gas for me because I don't really use the clutch a lot, is a night and day better in my opinion, because it feels more realistic and it allows for more realistic pedal play. So to me, adds to the immersion and makes the experience more enjoyable overall. So anybody out there looking for a load cell, I would seriously give this a look. If you're sitting there with this again, upgrading to it, don't be hesitant like I was going, ooh, 100 kg, is it worth spending the $200 to $300? If you have a T598 but haven't bought it yet because you're not sure, 100%, it's awesome. I would upgrade to it right away if I was you, because it's going to make your driving a lot nicer and a lot easier. It's going to make your braking way better. And for PC users that can mix and match, when it comes to this range between the $300 to $400 range, at the end of the day, this is the best deal and this is the best pedal. The only two that are kind of closest in price that are load cell is Fanatec and Logitech, the Pro, and then their CSL3 or whatever it is, or $320 and then a $370, and this is $270, and none of those have 24-bit load cells. And the Fanatec is all plastic with no adjustable plates. So for you, I would say this is the best deal in that range. But you have so many options. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but all I know is that I can tell you it's way better than the T-lcm, and in my opinion, a worthy upgrade if you're sitting there, or a worthy load cell in this class to use over what the competition is offering at the moment. So with that being said, I'm going to close this down. I've got to get this mounted because I want to do some more racing and some flying before my H4 upgrade shows up in a few days, so that I can do a comparison video for people. And then I'll do a technical video with people when I put it together, because I noticed people were struggling with that a little bit. And then once I'm done with that, I'll be able to do my wind kit video that I've been waiting to do until I got it, because you've got to modify this back wind port mount because it's different on the H2, the H3 to the H4. And once I get that, I'm going to do video showing you guys that. And really, that's what I've got coming down the pipe. So if you want, you can subscribe. I don't ask people, because if you want to subscribe because my video helped you or you liked it, then you can subscribe. But if you want to pay attention to when that stuff comes out, I guess the only way to do it ultimately is subscribe, or just keep doing searches. But do what you want to do. Anyways, these videos get long, and so let's cut this off so we can all go back to gaming. And until the next time, from Fred, Eddie the Eagle, and me, Peter V, have fun gaming.